even for me right now in 6 years, I have quite frankly made more money investing than from any other source of income. I would still find myself at the supermarket unwilling to buy, for example, Naked juice. And then there's a threshold, past which you start to forget how nice $1,000 was. And then another threshold past which you forget how nice $100,000 was. What's up, everybody? How's it going? I recently posted a video where I revealed exactly how much money I've made over the last 6 years from a few different sources of income. I'll put the link to that video in the description below in case you haven't seen it. I would highly encourage you to do so. But long story short, over the last 6 years, I basically went from a negative net worth, I had student loan debt, to a multi-million-dollar net worth. And throughout these 6 years of wealth building, I have learned a lot about money. And in this video, I want to share with you the 5 most important lessons about money that I have identified. These are lessons that I think are going to be relevant for anybody, regardless of where they are in their wealth building journey, at the start of it or at the end of it, although I don't really think there is an end to the wealth building journey. But for example, if you're ahead of me in your wealth building journey, I think these lessons are certainly going to be relevant. In fact, if you are ahead of me, I would love to hear from you. Do you agree with my lessons? Do you disagree? Is there a lesson that I failed to mention? Let us know in the comments below. And with that, let's jump into the first lesson, which might seem like the most obvious one, especially to people who are likely to watch this video, but I think it bears repeating, especially with the little nuance that I'm going to add to it. And it's the lesson of do not forget to invest your money. The nuance being, do not fall into the trap of investing less as you start to make more money. No, to the contrary, as you make more money, continue to increasingly invest. Why? Because as you make more money, you are able to invest greater sums, and therefore your absolute returns on investment become bigger and bigger and bigger. I think that investing should not be seen as some sort of secondary or tertiary source of income. No, it should be viewed as a potential primary source of income. I think that over the long run, you can make way more money from investing than any other source of income. Even for me right now in 6 years, I have quite frankly made more money investing than from any other source of income. And that's because I have been so aggressive with my investing. Now, granted, I was very fortunate when I got my first job at Google. I was living with my parents. I lived with them for about 3 years, and Google afforded me the luxury of having almost no expenses because I was eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. I had a gym there for free. So I had the ability to put basically every last penny from my job into investing. But regardless of what situation you are, try to absolutely maximize how much you invest. Trust me, you will thank yourself for it. Now, I will leave it as an exercise to the viewer to figure out what to invest their money in. This is not the point of this video, but I will also remind you that investing isn't necessarily a financial activity, even though for the most part that's what I'm talking about here, but you can also invest in yourself, in your education, in your career. For example, if you're a software engineer who wants to maximize the job offer that they can get somewhere, and of course you're going to want to prepare for your technical interviews and you want to use my company AlgoExpert, go to algoexpert.io and use the promo code CLEM, CLEM, for a discount on the platform. The second lesson, this one is the one that hits the hardest for me because I really experienced this intimately. It might sound like it conflicts with the first one, but it doesn't. It's all about balance. But it's the lesson of not finding yourself never willing to spend money. This is going to be particularly relevant to those people who really have that investing mindset or that saving mindset, who are all about that first point that I made just before. And this is going to be especially relevant as you make more and more money. You will realize that you find it hard for you to enjoy that more and more money. To give you an example, back in 2021, when I had started to make a lot of really good money, I would still find myself at the supermarket unwilling to buy, for example, Naked juice. Naked is like a brand of juice that's just a little bit more expensive than other juices. Why? Because it was a little bit more expensive. And we're talking like $2 to $3 a bottle. Or if I was at Chipotle, I wanted guac, but I didn't get it because it was an extra $2. And this kind of mentality, although it might make sense when you are truly at the very beginning of your wealth journey, especially if you are, for example, in debt, you're really struggling, but past a certain threshold, this just becomes nonsensical. In fact, I would argue that one of the greatest luxuries that wealth affords you is the ability to not need to think about the price tag of items at the supermarket or at the restaurant. These small things become truly meaningless the more money you have, and if you don't train yourself to allow yourself to spend on these things or to let go of this previous extremely stringent, almost like cheap mentality, you will find yourself in a toxic place where you are living at a lifestyle that is so below your means. I'm not advocating for you to live a lavishly luxurious lifestyle, just a better lifestyle that your newfound wealth affords you to. But if you don't train yourself or remind yourself, you may fall into this trap that can lead to just really unhappiness. And this goes beyond small expenses like juices and guac at Chipotle. It can also apply to things like traveling, where there are certain experiences that will require money, but they will be very much worth it, at least depending on the individual. And I remember back in 2021, I was very restrictive on myself to not spend too much just in the name of investing, but then I finally let myself go, and last year in 2022, in the summer, I went on a great trip across the world. I went to like 3 different countries: Switzerland, Maldives, Singapore, beautiful hotels. I spent a lot of money. It was a trip that cost like multiple tens of thousands of dollars, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it. It's a trip that I will cherish my entire life. It was amazing, super fun, and it's something that truly only money could have bought. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do that trip without money. And so I'm very happy that I let myself do that, because a year before, even though I could already afford that, I wouldn't have allowed myself to do that, and I was just much more miserable. I was far less happy. The third lesson, which also might seem like it conflicts with the previous one, but it doesn't, it's all about nuance and balance, is not to find yourself spending crazily or for no reason at all other than for the sake of spending money. Because once you kind of turn on that light switch of, okay, I will allow myself to spend money, especially if I've made a good amount of money, you can fall into that other trap of you spend money just because you can, and it's fun to just spend money for no reason, but that's bad. And here, the canonical example would be something like, don't waste money on luxury goods like fancy watches, fancy handbags, fancy cars. Now, to be clear, I'm not actually telling you this. In fact, I would tell you the opposite here. I would tell you, if you really enjoy luxury watches or luxury handbags and you really want one, go for it. Like, if you want one, you can afford one or multiple, and it genuinely makes you happy, then buy a luxury watch or handbag or shoes or whatever. But to give you an example, for me, I have never been much of a car guy. I really don't care about cars that much. Of course, I can enjoy watching a YouTube video about a Bugatti or Lamborghini or Audi or whatever. Those 3 cars are probably not in the same ballpark of comparison from what I know, but the point is, I can enjoy a video about them, but I've never dreamt about getting one. And so it would be really silly for me to spend money on one of these cars just for the sake of getting one, because I genuinely don't really want one. The only car that I would want that's kind of fancy is the Tesla Cybertruck, and that's not out yet. So you get the idea. Just be wary of not falling into that other trap of spending just for the sake of spending on things that you don't want. Lesson number 4, this one is extremely important. Understand the value of money. Do not forget the value of money. Let me explain. When you are at the very beginning of your wealth creation journey, especially if you are at a negative net worth, you've got tons of debt, or perhaps not a negative net worth, but you're living paycheck to paycheck, or not making a lot of money, you really value money. If you could get $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, that would mean a lot. That could get you a lot. And then you start to make money. You start to make money, a little bit more. And then there's a threshold, past which you start to forget how nice and valuable $1,000 was. And then there's another threshold past which you forget how nice $10,000 was. And then another threshold past which you forget how nice $100,000 was. It's not that you completely disregard these figures, although, again, depending on the threshold, you start to disregard them. It's just that they become a little bit meaningless. It's like, what's $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 in this sea of money, or in this big number on a screen? And it's only once you kind of like catch yourself, or perhaps once you find yourself making a big mistake or something like that, that you really like remind yourself of the value of $1,000, $10,000, or $100,000. And here, let me try to convey this in a different way. No matter who you are, whether you're someone who has like no money, or someone who's making $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year, or whether you're Elon Musk, one of the richest people on earth, if I give you $100,000, you can get the same amount of value for the most part. Let's not get into nitty-gritty things of like network and connections. You can get the same amount of value for that $100,000. You can go on the same like 5 amazing luxury trips with $100,000, whether you're Elon Musk or someone who has $0 to their name. Forget again about the fact that Elon Musk is a private jet that's going to cost more. Okay, doesn't matter. You get the idea. You can access the same amazing restaurants that you might be able to enjoy. You can buy the same amazing gaming laptops or cars or watches or handbags or whatever. That $100,000 is going to go like just as far regardless of who you are. And so do not fall into that trap of the more you make, the less you value $100,000. No, that $100,000 can meaningfully improve your life regardless of where you are. Hopefully, I was able to convey this lesson and this message well here. Perhaps some of you will understand it better than others, but I think it's a very important lesson. Just like, do not forget the value of money. Do not forget the value of money. Fifth and final lesson. This one is a little bit cliche, but still extremely important. It's the lesson that money is not the only currency out there. Perhaps the 2 most obvious other currencies, or most important other currencies, are going to be time and health. And I think that it's really only once you start to make a lot of money that you really appreciate these other currencies, and you start to realize that these other currencies are actually harder to get, or at least harder to make back if you lose them, than the first currency, being money. Ultimately, all 3 of these currencies, it's a game. It's a game where you're trading one for the other, or you're trading 2 for the other. I will always advocate, when you're at the beginning of your wealth creation journey, to trade time and health to an extent. Like health here, maybe I'm saying more like mental health, entertainment, against money. But as you start to make more and more money, you quickly start to realize like health is probably the most precious currency of all, and time is also extremely precious. And you get to a point where you actively start to spend money to buy time. And that's why I think that everybody who starts to make a good amount of money inevitably runs into that thing of, oh my God, I don't want to make this much money if I don't have time. I want to spend money now to gain back time, to gain back freedom. So just remember, money is a currency, but there are other currencies just as important, if not more important, out there. And eventually you can spend money to get those currencies. Ultimately, money is a means to an end. It's not an end in and of itself. And, bonus lesson number 6, if you fall into the trap of letting money become the end goal, just seeing numbers go up on a screen, you're not going to be happy. It's a fantastic tool and currency and means to an end, or to multiple ends, but it's not the end itself. So those are the 5 lessons I've got for you. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. Don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter if you enjoy short form written content. Instagram if you like pictures, and I will see you in the next video.